All right, thank you. Thank you, Ignacio. I just checked the watch on my phone, which says 10:28, so we are 2 minutes ahead in Spain. I must say I'm baffled. Never before, never before. So I'm very, very grateful to the Zentyal team and Ignacio to have us here. Obviously, as the main investor in the company, we want to get to know the community, the customers, the partners of Zentyal. A great group that we have here today. The second part is that as we invest in, and I have to correct Ignacio a little bit, not only open source companies, we invest in software companies with an open model, and I will come back to that. Not only open source companies, because there might not be enough fantastic open source companies in Europe to actually carry a fund and maybe the next fund and so on. But as we invest in open model companies, it's guys like you. You are in the open model, in the open source world, so who knows what we will find out when interacting here today. We had to come up with a topic, so we agreed that it will be about the keys from an investor perspective perhaps, or partner customer perspective, to identify great open source, open model companies, and then the same keys are applicable for scaling those companies. So that's what I will address here today. I will be a bit selfish and talk briefly, hopefully briefly, about OpenOcean, and especially about our portfolio companies. You might find some interesting products and services in those that you may want to use. And then I'll get to these 6 famous keys, hopefully famous after this discussion. And then I will compare these keys with Zentyal. How did Zentyal look when we invested 10, 11 months ago? And how does it look today? So about us, of course I know this by heart, but it's a little bit hard to look at it from this perspective. Anyways, after MySQL had been sold to Sun, Monty and Patrick, 2 of my 3 operative partners in OpenOcean Capital, started thinking about what to do next. And when the lockups expired in early 2009, they set up OpenOcean Capital. So Patrick was on the management team in MySQL, in charge of most of engineering and the new business models and products. Monty, obviously the founder, our rocket scientist. It does take a bit of rocket science to develop a database. Monty is indeed a genius in that area, at least, maybe in some other areas as well. The third partner is Ralph, who did 15 years in management consulting around the world, and then actually on the request of Monty, because they used to study together back in the 80s, early 80s, helped Monty figure out how do you go from a service revenue business with a large community of free users to a scalable software business model. So they did the initial plan, hired Morten Mikkos, fabulous CEO, got a great Swedish chairman in, developed the plan, and then the last partner, myself, actually came to me and other VCs to get the funding, and this was late 2000, and in early 2001, my former venture capital firm, Holtron, was the lead investor in the A round of MySQL. So we have this joint background, joint journey in various ways around MySQL. With the new fund, OpenOcean Capital, which actually was started by the 3 of them with a private fund, 6 million euros invested in 6 companies, and now a larger fund, 45 million euros, with so far only 3 investments, which I will get to, wants to find and help develop similar companies. So software companies with large user bases, large communities, if you will, where the large user base probably can help you in develop a better product, or at least a gooder product more efficiently. And maybe even more importantly, through the large user base, you are able to identify the potential, let's say, upsell customers. So finding out, who just want to use it for free, who want to buy some services or some additional modules, some commercial versions of the product, and actually lower your marketing costs. Get very efficient sales so that your enterprise sales force, which you most likely will need in most B2B businesses, only go to the customers that are highly qualified and you know that you more or less will get them as customers. So that's why we invest in those types of companies. So we only invest in companies that already have a user base. In essence, we don't take the core product or technology risk because they have a user base. It may be a user base that is using only the free version of the product, but it's out there, it's popular, so we know the product works. We're very happy to take a risk if one can make money on the product, developing the commercial versions and getting the business infrastructure in place. And there are some of our, well, actually all of our current companies. So of the ones we've invested in, 2 we've actually already exited. They are not there. One with a nice little profit and one, as it goes in venture capital, with a crossover. And that one we sold back to the entrepreneur for €1. And then obviously we lost a lot of money on that one, but that's venture capital. So just very briefly on these, starting up on the left, if you don't use Web of Trust, maybe you should. It's mywot.com. It's the most popular safe browsing tool in the world. So they have a community that rates websites. Do they take your money? Is it child safe? Do they respect privacy? And so on. And give green, well, it's a scale, but at the end of the day, green, orange, or red for the websites. So when you click on links, or before you click on links, when you have Web of Trust, the browser add-on installed, you'll see these little donuts, which will show you is it safe to click. And when you go to websites, you'll see the donut up in the left corner. They have some 43 million downloads of the browser add-on, 7 million active users, a big database of over 40 million rated websites. Check it out if you don't use it. It's a pretty good tool, and actually the product is also coming out in some new much more, I would say, even more useful, with some even more useful features. SkySQL is the new MySQL. So when Oracle then bought Sun, they did start constricting what MySQL can do. So a group of 30 people from MySQL didn't like that, left, and then started SkySQL, which in the first phase does what MySQL does. They sell an enterprise database subscription solution. So with the MySQL or Monty's new database, MariaDB at the core, services support commercial components like a database monitoring system, and so on, and sell that to bigger enterprises. 2 years old company, almost $10 million in revenue already, so growing very fast. But they are the best in the world at that. Now they've come out with their cloud product, so now you can put your databases into Amazon and they do it for you and take care of it for you. Commerce guys, I'll be very brief. If you have Drupal as your content management system, built your website on it. If you want an e-commerce shop on your website, Drupal Commerce is the solution for that. Fairly large community, growing user base. Yeah, let's get to the real beef. So I'll just take Truecaller last. Again, it's a mobile app. You may want to download it from the App Store or the Android, what is it called now, Google Play. Truecaller is a crowdsourced phone book. So they have more than 1 billion phone numbers already. So you can use it for free by giving access to your phone book. They suck it up. take the numbers they didn't have in the database before and improve the database with the numbers, and then everybody can use this phone book with more numbers than any other directory in the world, growing super fast. Also some 6 million active users at the moment. Anyways, not only blatant promotion with Donald Trump over 1 billion users, but there are actually some useful products and services in there. And it gives a bit of a flavor for my next page, which is about what we seek in these companies. So clearly, companies with large user bases. Actually, SkySQL is the only one without a large user base, because they don't have MySQL. They just started by using that product. They have 300 customers today, so not a large user base yet. The famous, or to be famous, 6 keys. And here, so back to the original comment, it's not about open source per se. Yes, open source has a lot of great stuff, but it's about the open model. So how can you build better products because you are open to getting input, improving the product, getting help from the community, the users? And how can you market and sell more efficiently by really understanding the user base, the community, and digitally tracking what they do based on behavior and true needs, reach them with various messages, proposals, etc., and get the sales and marketing costs down. So this open model we see in a bunch of companies, of course open source companies, crowdsource companies, software as a service companies with freemium models, even marketplaces, API tools companies, and others. So there's a lot of software companies that actually have either fully or partly an open model, which helps them grow faster. So what do we look for in these open model companies? And obviously here, this is my list. It's very subjective. The next page, which compares to Zentyal, is even more subjective. But this is what we look for. Number one, the team. Any VC will tell you that we only invest in teams that we love, and a great team will fix a crappy business. A crappy team will destroy a great business. So yes, it is true. But what do we mean by a great team? It's really relative to where the company is. At the end of the day, when the company is public, a great team means that it has a lot of people with a lot of skills, and every function they're experts on it, and some are world class, and so on. That's not the case, of course, early on. So what we look for is people who are deep in the community, really leading the community, or extremely important contributors in the community, and or really know the customers very well. So that's the foundation for business. If you don't know the customers really well, what they want, and if you're not ready to constantly learn and get better at that, you're probably not going to develop a great business. So number one, knowing that. Number two, they are experts at something. Some people in the team are experts, real global experts at something. Not everything, nobody is, but they know something superiorly well. That improves your odds of actually doing things right. And last but not least, we like to think that we are not assholes. You tell us. Zentyal will tell you. But since we believe that, we don't want to work with assholes. There's enough nice people to work with. So we want to work with entrepreneurs who we have fun with. Because even in the good cases, even in MySQL, there was a huge glitch for about 1 year when Oracle bought a company that was a core component of the database. And we were like, oh shit. So you will have, even in the great cases, you will have tough times. And at that time, it's nice to have people that it's fun to work with. Because if you work with assholes, it's not going to end well at those times. So that's our first one. The second one, well, a great product. Obviously, that could mean a lot of things. So it needs to be great in some way. It's not necessarily at an early stage great in every way, but it's better, it's faster, it has some unique algorithms, or combines things better than others, or whatever it is. But it really has to have some greatness, because again, as you need to know your customers, you need to have something that is really, really great for those customers. Through community contributions, yes, of course. So here, the open model. If you know your customers, your community very well, if you have a good relationship with them, you'll get all kinds of benefit for your product. Rarely, even in open source companies, do the community create the product. Typically, it's this core team that's in the target company that we would invest in that really leads the product development and the core of it. But there are so many things where great customer relationships and community interaction can help. Be they simple things like really understanding the roadmap, developing that together, which Ignacio talked about just a moment ago, or be it localizing the product for markets, be it bug fixing, etc., etc. But it just makes you more efficient in getting out a better product. So that's what we like. And of course, in some cases, like Web of Trust, for instance, it's the users who rate the websites. Web of Trust only gives the tool, a very simple tool, for rating websites. I've rated a few. Then they have smart algorithms for determining if my rating is, if we have a high confidence level of my rating or not, depending on how I'm in line with other ratings, how many things I've rated, and so on. But they have a very simple tool. The product itself is the database with the reputation ratings. That's the product. Without the users, Web of Trust does not have a product. Currently, it is the best product in its field because 40 million downloads and, well, they actually have, of these 43 million downloads and 7 million actives, there's maybe 100 to 200,000 really active raters. Some of them actually rate 1,000 websites or more. So not all of them. Anyways, well, a large user base, as said, we don't want to take that fundamental risk that does this product have some value, does it work at all? We only invest when there are users. When you have that large user base, then to us it becomes a thing of creating a lead generation and lead qualification machine. What are all the ways for getting leads so that you get the downloads, if it's a free download product, or free users, maybe not downloads in a software as a service cloud world of today anymore. But so how do you get those free users? Or maybe the free user base just is so large that how do you identify from those based on what they say, what they do, what trainings they take, what white papers they read, what seminars they go to, what not, what their real needs may be, so that you can connect with them initially probably in a digital way, sending them emails or questions, or then maybe with telesales to keep the sales cost low, really qualifying, and then only sending in the expensive, they're always expensive direct sales guys to take the product to market. Very seldom is it just a direct sell. So what's the value to the partners? Really understanding that, something we worked a lot on with Zentyal of late. And of course, when it comes to monetization, it's nice if there's some growth indicators that one can actually see that conversions are getting better and so on. But calling this in general, having the enablers in place that you could monetize. When we come in, you don't need to monetize yet, but we need to have a view that it's actually possible and so on. Then rarely do companies change markets or create completely new ones unless they do something, I hate the word because it's been overused, disruptive. But the totality of the things before, Do you have a large user base? Is the product great? Can you monetize? Do you have a new revenue business model? All of those. It needs to be at least 5x, hopefully 10x better than the alternatives. Doesn't mean it's 10 times cheaper. It rarely is. But open source companies, for instance, often are 3 to 5 times, maybe even more cheaper, especially when you look at the whole offering that an open source company often brings. And he gives me 10 minutes and no problem. No problem. But the combination of those, you actually need to do things so much better if you want to have a strong chance of succeeding. The second to last one is something every venture capitalist will tell you. Of course, there needs to be a big vision. I mean, how do we disrupt the market? How do we bring this power of our model and change the world? Those are the great opportunities. Typically, if it's not in a large market space, it's unlikely to become a big success. It might be a small success, which is nice for the company, but really great for the venture capitalist. So we want to invest in billion-dollar markets. There are, of course, new things that might become billion-dollar markets, which are hard to see early on. But there, then the vision itself is more important. And last but not least, it's 6 criteria, but you always have to have a bonus criteria or a bonus thing. So we do have a 7th one here, and that is, I think you can survive without the 7th, but you're most likely to grow faster if you actually can put what you do in one sentence. We call it being on the cover of Fortune. I mean, we invest in companies that sell to businesses, so Fortune magazine is still a good place to be on when you sell to enterprises. So that first page of Fortune, that cover page, what's the one pager? One sentence. Can you make it that simple? If you can, you might become mainstream popular within your industry, or maybe even crossing industry boundaries, and then you could become really big. So it's a long list, and no company hits all of these points, at least not initially. And thinking back to our dear MySQL, I think it hits most of the points, but not initially either. So my last slide, hopefully some time for Q&A after that if you have some thoughts. So Nacho said what we invested over $1 million as it was in the public release. We've never said the exact number. It's 10 plus months ago, but the team had interacted with Ignacio 1.5 years before that. So getting to know him, really important to get to know the people. Doesn't mean it always takes 1.5 years to dance together, but the great team. On investment, it was completely green. They were fun to work with. They're still fun to work with. They know a few things really well. They are deep in the community. They still are. Why I now say it's greenish is because we're almost 1 year later, and yes, we've increased the number of people in the team. We've gotten one senior sales guy into the team. But actually, the management team should be a little bit broader, a little bit more senior at this time, if I'm direct and rough. So therefore, I actually think, relatively speaking, it's gone down, believe it or not, although the team is the same core people and bigger and better. But I'd like us to be a little bit further along by this stage. The product, yellow, technically fabulous product, integrating a lot of components, doing a lot of things for the customer, depending a bit on if it's an MSP or a small or a medium-sized or a larger company and so on, but lots of value in the product. Perhaps could even be easier to use because it's still really a Linux/IT guy who can use the product. So it won't get massively popular until it's easier to use. So only yellow, working on these things. Now coming out with the cloud product, which will broaden the user base, I'm quite sure. I worked a lot on the positioning of the product, simplifying the free and commercial offerings and the channel strategy and fit and so on. So getting better. Yeah, I dare say greenish, but of course the jury is still out. We need to not only get the partners and the customers that we've signed up to actually convert into a lot of revenue as well. That's the ultimate proof. Large user base. The user base was large, 30,000 downloads when we invested per month. Now it's about 40,000, so it's growing. However, Zentyal knew very little about its user. It had a few subscription users, which it knew a little bit more about, but knew almost nothing about the rest of the user base. We still know too little about the users. We have improved the lead gen and lead qualification, and we know more about more users, but we still don't know enough about them. Monetization clarity. Actually, we had to acquire the rights to the IP. It wasn't there. The licensing scheme is okay, and so on. So it was decent. However, the pricing of the product and the channel, product pricing, value proposition fit, it wasn't really there. And it's improved, but again, we need to see the growth in the actual numbers. We are already growing a little bit, not only in the user base, but also in the revenue. We'll have to tell you that when we invested, we said 2012 is the year of putting basics into place. And that's what we've done. So we aren't expecting huge revenue growth this year, but next year, not sure. We are. But I think we're aligned there. So yellow plus, not green yet. Disruptive power, pretty good. I mean, it's a lot of value compared to Windows Small Business Server, for sure. Maybe it could be even more with the cloud product coming. We again think it will improve, but again, you guys will tell us. So can't say it's totally green yet. Big vision and big market. Vision has been decent, but actually the cloud vision wasn't there. So that we worked on. I think there we could still be a little bit more ambitious and a little bit more crazy with our ideas. And the market, although it is a multi-billion-dollar market, but if this is the open source alternative which lowers the price point, especially compared to everything it brings quite dramatically, that multi-billion-dollar market, if Zentyal gets 100% of the market, which it of course never will lower the size of the market. So maybe the market is only worth 500 million or whatever if Zentyal takes over. But reality is of course not like that. Neither will we get 100%, nor will it completely disrupt the market. So it's kind of somewhere. It could be huge. Maybe again the cloud solutions will improve on that, as the Dropboxes and Boxes of the world definitely are billion-dollar companies already when they are private. So let's see. And the bonus criteria, I won't even try to say what Zentyal is in one sentence, except for all the IT a small and medium-sized business will need. Will be especially true now with the cloud solutions as well. That's not yet the one-liner we want, but it's fairly straightforward what we're talking about here. We need to get a little bit more of sex appeal into this one-liner, and then it could be great. So that's my take. Subjective, maybe it's overly positive, maybe I'm too tough to the guys, I don't know. You say what you think, and let's open up for Q&A and comments if we still have a minute or two. 1 minute. What's the exit strategy? Well, it's a great question. It's something we write an investment memo to our investors in the fund when we make an investment. And one point there is exit strategy. Early stage companies, we're fairly fluffy around it. You know, we identify a few industries/companies that could be interested for a number of reasons, but we don't do a deep analysis at the early stage. So the honest answer is, in detail, we don't know. We will be working on it at some stage. Another perspective is pretty long term. You know, MySQL, and this is, by the way, funny. When I took MySQL to my old venture firm, I was at Nokia 9 years in between, but the previous venture firm which invested in MySQL, we had an investment committee that you had to get a green light to actually be able to make the investment. And when we took it there, I said to them that this can be $100 million company. That was the pitch. It became $1 billion company. So sometimes you don't see far enough. Here I have a bit of the same feeling that this is maybe not $1 billion company, maybe this is a $100 million company only. I hope I'm wrong, but the final point, it takes time. Even MySQL, which was a great success story, from investment to exit took 7 years. And things really went well with except for that one glitch. Maybe a final question? Yes? So it depends if we are the first and only investor or if we're syndicating, but we like to have 15 to 20+% so that at the end, and then we invest in the first round, in the second round, in the third round, so at the end of the day, we might have 15, 20% when the exit is there. Okay, thanks very much.